Now out on 4K Blu-ray from Arrow Video is director John Boorman's classic Excalibur, a hit back in 1981 produced for $11 million, and it earned over $32 million in the USA alone. The critics were, however, mixed on the film. Time and Newsweek both praised the movie, calling it brilliant and a medieval version of Star Wars. Variety called it a near-perfect blend of action, romance, fantasy and philosophy. Other critics complained, saying the dialogue was near atrocious and lacked the dramatic intensity this type of story was expected to have. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert both gave it the thumbs down. They loved how the film looked, but they couldn't recommend it due to the faults with the story. Roger felt the characters never come alive, apart from Merlin and Morgana. The events in the story don't develop but passively unfold. Gene couldn't understand why John Boorman didn't make Arthur, Lancelot and Guinevere more compelling characters. They felt interchangeable. Excalibur arrived at the start of the fantasy craze and kickstarted a trend. Studios saw there were opportunities to capitalize on the myths that dealt with magic and fantastical adventures, but sadly audiences didn't flock in huge numbers, with only a handful of movies generating a profit, not due to the genre being unpopular, but because often the films themselves failed to deliver. For the film's story, it opens in the Dark Ages, with Uther demanding the Sword of Power to gain him control over the land. Merlin retrieves Excalibur from the Lady of the Lake for him, and Uther secures an alliance with the Duke of Cornwall. But their friendship ends quickly as they celebrate their pact, as Uther lusts after Cornwall's wife. They fight over her, but Uther has the upper hand and makes a deal with Merlin to disguise him as the Duke, but at a cost. Merlin can take whatever he wants in result of his lust. The Duke's daughter, Morgana, senses her father's mortal injury during his assault on Uther's camp, and he dies in battle while the disguise fools the Duke's wife, and Uther impregnates her. 9 months later, Merlin takes Uther's son, Arthur. Uther pursues Merlin but is mortally wounded by knights who have turned against him. Uther thrusts Excalibur into a stone just before dying, crying that nobody shall wield Excalibur but me, and Merlin proclaims, "He who draws the sword from the stone, he shall be king." Years later, Arthur accidentally pulls the sword from the stone and becomes King of England, and he brings the best of the warriors from across the land to form the Knights of the Round Table. Meanwhile, Cornwall's daughter Morgana has become a powerful witch and secretly plans to take revenge for the death of her father. Excalibur has made its way to every video format since the early 1980s. The CED cover is particularly cool, but due to the film's visual style of a soft filtered look to give it that magical dreamlike feeling, and its use of muddy browns with an earthy colour palette through its landscape and costume design, as well as having many dark scenes with limited lighting, and a heavy use of fog machines, it results in an image that doesn't translate well to home video. As you'll see across the many transfers, there are inconsistencies with the image quality and the reviews from the time that reflect that concern. Excalibur first arrived in widescreen on LaserDisc in August of 1992. It's now a very common title to pick up on the format. The film was originally presented in mono on its theatrical release. John Boorman had considered a Dolby Stereo track, but wasn't happy with the mixing at the time and went with mono. And all the previous home video releases retain that mono track, but for this new transfer they produced a Dolby Surround mix. The film was projected back in 1981 with a 1:66:1 aspect ratio, but the LaserDisc would be presented in 1:85:1. I have the Japanese version that was released in March of 1995, which I presume retains the same transfer. The film would be remastered in 1998 with a Dolby Digital track, which is less common to find as it's a late release in the LaserDisc format's life. The new 5.1 Dolby track was very front-heavy with its presentation, with little use of the surround sound channels. The review for this LaserDisc from Widescreen Review magazine gave the picture 2.5 out of 5 and the audio 3.5 out of 5. They said the new version is similar to the old transfer, except for some differences in colour fidelity. The overall picture is dark and unrefined, with a veil of white noise apparent throughout. Images are wanting in sharpness and detail. While the old LaserDisc exhibits oversaturated colours and flesh tones, the new LaserDisc appears slightly more refined. The transfer to DVD was taken from the LaserDisc that would be enhanced to 16:9 for modern widescreen TVs in late 1999. The new DVD version would include a director's commentary, though only for the US release, with included production notes and a trailer. The audio would bring over the Dolby Digital 5.1 track from the 1998 LaserDisc. The DVD at the time didn't get strong reviews, mostly average for its picture quality. Many pointed out the visual edge enhancement applied to the picture and visible signs of artifacting, with dust and dirt in the picture, and the audio was left wanting in quality. The DVD was an early transfer in the format's life and is a digital mess. I found the LaserDisc image far more satisfying to watch. With the move to high definition, it would hit HD DVD in October of 2006, but only in America. Warner's adjusted the aspect ratio from 185:1 to 178:1. It brought over the Dolby Digital mix and the audio commentary. Many complained the picture was bad, proclaiming it one of the worst HD DVD transfers, with visible macro blocking, which may have been a result of the VC1 video compression and edge enhancement throughout. As it was a Warner's disc from 2006, it will be difficult to find a copy that doesn't have laser rot, as there was a huge batch of discs from this period that experienced playback issues, due to a pressing plant facility with poor quality control. Come 2011, Warner's would reissue the film on the Blu-ray format with a DTS track instead of Dolby, but would still retain the same issues as the previous audio track, with little use of the surround sound channels, and the old DVD audio commentary was included. It would get issued again in 2017 for the HMV Premium Collection label. The transfer for the Blu-ray was received far more favourably than the previous home releases. The picture was never going to wow home cinema enthusiasts, but Warner's had made an effort to clean up the picture and balance the colour for a far more pleasing experience, though it still has that softness throughout that was inherent with the original photography. Now, after 15 years, it's finally been given that 4K treatment. So what does this box set include? With the usual approach by Arrow, it's a sturdy box with a slipcover. It includes a poster with alternative artwork on the other side, postcards with black and white images of the cast, and on the reverse is Bob Peak's amazing artwork, and a booklet containing essays on the film and details about its restoration. Arrow have made a change of paper stock used. They have gone with thin glossy paper, making it easier to read and flick through. The previous books had harder paper stock used. Disc 1 features the movie presented in 4K with Dolby Vision. The 35mm negative was scanned by Warner Brothers for this new restoration, and presented in its original aspect ratio of 166:1. This easily tops the list as the best way to watch Excalibur. Rich and warm in colour, the grain isn't excessive, though visible throughout. It doesn't become distracting, and the nighttime scenes, which were a bit troublesome on the old analogue formats, are far more visible in 4K, and it certainly tops the old Blu-ray master. The softness to the image by design may not please everyone, but it adds to the charm and dreamlike feel the movie has, as Boorman, with the help from the great DP Alex Thompson, creates this fantastical window into the past that is filled with dread, magic and wonder. For the audio, it restores the original mono mix, and it includes a 5.1 surround track, which appears to have been carried over from the previous Blu-ray. The mono mix, you'll be surprised to know, is far superior to the 5.1 track. Loud and richer in quality, the 5.1 track is quiet and flat in areas and appears to be missing sound effects in places, or they have been reduced so heavily in volume they are barely audible. It does sound very dated and lacking in fidelity, and has balancing issues with the dialogue sometimes sounding too quiet and thin, so stick to the mono track. For the bonus content on this disc, it features 3 audio commentaries, with a legacy commentary with John Boorman, and 2 new tracks from Brian Hoyle, author of The Cinema of John Boorman, and one by filmmaker David Kittredge, director of the new documentary on Exorcist 2 called Boorman and the Devil, which isn't out yet, but is currently doing the rounds at film festivals. Disc 2 includes all the extra features. First up is a documentary on the making of the film that runs to 48 minutes, that was shot at the time but never released, directed by Neil Jordan. This is a fantastic insight into the production, and it's baffling it never got broadcast in any shape or form back in the early 80s to promote the feature. We have a newly filmed interview with director John Boorman, who is in his early 90s now, and his son Charlie, which lasts around 28 minutes. John explores the early days of his career, working with actor Lee Marvin in movies such as Point Blank, and his fascination with the Arthurian legend, and wanting to make it on a big scale. John also discusses the making of the film, and talking about the challenges of working with a large cast. His son Charlie reminisces about his experience on set, and playing a young Mordred. He mentions his dad's foul temper on set, and having a go at his daughter who was playing the Lady of the Lake, which is a very funny story.
Ruined my fucking shot and stuff. I couldn't breathe. You ruined my shot.
The next featurette is called When Death Was But a Dream. which is a new interview with Neil Jordan, who was the creative associate on the film, who shot the behind-the-scenes material and would help out on the script. Neil would go on to have a successful career directing such hits as The Company of Wolves, Mona Lisa, The Crying Game, Interview with the Vampire, and Michael Collins. Neil is a great interviewee, as he explores not being a filmmaker at the time, but learning along the way, observing the process as he documents it. There's a new interview with production designer Anthony Pratt, which lasts around 26 minutes. Anthony is a highly skilled designer and went to work on Santa Claus the Movie, The Man in the Iron Mask, Band of Brothers, and The Phantom of the Opera. Anthony discusses the early days of his career and wanting to work in the movies, and explores the process of taking the conceptual drawings of the sets and constructing them, and making sure the visual detail is on screen. Anthony said John wanted Excalibur to be a fantasy and not a retelling of history with its design, so it gave Anthony more flexibility to push his creativity. This is a nice insight into Anthony's career and the process of how he approached his designs. Next, we have a favourite of mine called Confessions of a Professional Pain in the Ass, which features a lengthy interview, I believe over Zoom, with second unit director Peter MacDonald. Peter has worked on many big movies such as Superman and has some funny stories to tell, and swears up a storm in his usual fashion. A very talented guy who provides some fantastic insights into his career and working relationship with John Boorman and the troubles of filming Excalibur. There is an interview with Rospo Pallenberg, who co-wrote the script with John Boorman. Rospo discusses his career working with Boorman, and is also edited like a video essay by Howard Berger. The interview with Rospo is poorly shot as it goes out of focus from time to time and is bizarrely edited. I'm not sure why it can't just be an interview with Rospo. Maybe they couldn't get the answers they wanted and had to change the direction of the video to fill in the gaps. And finally, we have a video essay called Divided Nature on the career of John Boorman by Howard S. Berger and Kevin Marr. This explores the themes and ideas across a number of Boorman's films, with the main focus on Excalibur, of course. Plus you get the usual trailers and a photo gallery. Disc 3 features the TV cut of Excalibur, presented in 1080p with a mono audio track. This runs 20 minutes shorter than the theatrical cut, as it removes some of the violence and sexual content, and has a unique narration by Merlin. During the opening battle, it would switch to 4:3 for a random shot, and it didn't seem to happen again, which is a bit odd. I'm not sure why anyone would choose to watch this cut, but Arrow have included it to make sure all the legacy material is included. This disc also includes the PBS documentary produced in 2013. This is around 50 minutes long in length, featuring interviews with the cast and crew. This was the first time I got to see the behind-the-scenes material shot by Neil Jordan when I produced my retrospective on the film over 6 years ago. This is also another great look back at the making of the film, and it was made available a few months ago on YouTube by PBS. Arrow Video have been smashing it out of the park with their back catalogue of Warner Brothers titles. This is a brilliant package with 2 lengthy documentaries and some great new interviews. The video essays I'm less interested in, as they are honestly a bit dull and dry in their delivery and have pacing issues, and you can find far better essays from YouTubers who do it all the time and are far more competent at it. As I said before, I'd prefer if they drop the video essays and focus on additional interviews with the cast and crew, because as they include a booklet with the set, this does provide an outlet for film historians and critics to contribute. If you are a fan of Excalibur, then this is a no-brainer, and if you are thinking of upgrading your old DVD or Blu-ray, then you are in safe hands with this 4K remaster. The picture is generally good throughout, and the original monomix was surprisingly impressive. For those on the fence, Excalibur is not for everyone. Its story can be a bit strange in places, the acting is a bit hammy, making for an odd tone for modern audiences, but it's still the best movie that deals with the Arthurian legend, which is pretty impressive considering its age and the many other attempts over the past 40+ years. Its success boils down to John Boorman's creative direction and eagerness to adapt this ancient story in his own way. It's weird, creepy, but also beautiful to look at and fascinating to watch as it unfolds like a vivid dream.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click the like button and hit the bell to be notified of my latest reviews. Big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain access to exclusive videos and take part in Q&As, follow the link below.